this is Everett Crockett. Welcome to TRS, Your Retirement in Focus. Well, school is out, summer break is in full effect, and the number of retirement applications are certain to be on the rise. If you have retired, or if you're retiring in the very near future, then today's guest will be sharing some information with you, which could very well make you one of the happiest retirees on the block.
Joining us today is Mr. Wes Moss. Wes is a certified financial planner and the managing partner and chief investment strategist at Capital Investment Advisors, an Atlanta-based registered investment advisor with over $4 billion in assets under management. He is the host of the Retire Sooner podcast, a nationally recognized podcast dedicated to helping 1 million people retire sooner. He is also the host of Money Matters, the country's longest-running weekly call-in financial show on 95.5 WSB's Atlanta News and Talk. In addition to his book, What the Happiest Retirees Know, Wes is the author of 3 other books, including 2014's bestseller, You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think. He served as the financial columnist for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution for more than a decade. He's the editor of WesMoss.com and is a frequent resource for journalists across all mediums. Wes is on a mission to help at least 1 million Americans of any age retire sooner and find joy along the way. As a seasoned finance professional, best-selling author, broadcaster, and teacher, Wes has done extensive research on the habits of the happiest retirees. On his Retire Sooner podcast, Wes shares key lifestyle and money habits you can implement now to prepare for a secure future while not depriving yourself of happiness in the present. In addition to leveraging his 20-plus years of knowledge as an investment advisor, Wes brings in guests and specialists to teach you how to set and work towards your financial and lifestyle objectives. Mr. Moss does not present mind-numbing financial jargon and unrealistic money goals, but rather, his Retire Sooner with Wes Moss podcast gives listeners the tools on how to retire sooner in the real world. And without further ado, I present to you Mr. Wes Moss. Wes, how are you, sir?
Good, Ever. You got a great radio voice. Podcast voice.
I'll tell you, I accept that, and thank you very much, but I'm going to keep my day job.
And I do like that bio. You made me excited to hear about this.
Well,
even though I'm the one, I guess I'm the one supposed to be sharing all the secrets here. I'm excited. You got me excited about it.
Well, that's good. That's the whole point of it all. Well, I'll tell you what, very recently I had a chance and benefit of listening to your Retire Sooner podcast, and I especially enjoyed the episodes with Kat Cole and Chris Gardner. Very real, but quite impressive.
Here's what's impressive. You've got What the Happiest Retirees Know right here, and there's 100 stickers all over. You've got Post-it notes, you've got pink, yellow, blue, Post-it notes all over. You actually read the book.
I did a little research.
That's pretty good. That's cool. Not everybody does that, by the way.
Well, I tell you, it was a gift from a very special friend of mine who thought it would be good to have, and I appreciate him very much. Well, hats off to the outstanding work you've done, so let's jump right in if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Well, here at the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia, retirement is a subject that is very near and dear to our hearts. So we'd like to ask you some questions in the hopes of empowering our members with some answers that will help them, too, become some of the happiest retirees on the block.
Yep. We call them HROPs, Happy Retiree on Block.
There you go.
That's a happy group.
That's a
happy group.
So that's our target audience today. We want everybody to be in the happy group. So, Wes, I'm not quite there yet, but I envision that everyone who is retired is happy. You've conducted years of proprietary research on the correlation between money and happiness. So tell us a little bit about your research method and how you've determined what makes people happy versus unhappy.
You know, look, just like everybody, we're all, as Americans, we're trying to figure out the formula. And then there's always this question about what is the relationship. So how much money do I need, right? There's always, we don't want to say, oh, you don't need any money. Money doesn't buy happiness. It doesn't, but it's in the equation.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the equation. And I remember there was a book called Happiest Baby on the Block 15 years ago when I had my first of 4 kids. I have 4 boys. And I remember that was in the vernacular for a year or two. It's supposed to teach you how to make sure your kid doesn't cry and he's a happy little baby, right? The book doesn't work, by the way.
I've thought not.
But so I thought one morning, why wouldn't somebody do the research around retiree? So what makes a happy retiree? Mm-hmm. Because when you're in the let's call it the real world, you see plenty of people that have lots of money. people that maybe have just enough or not enough, and it doesn't seem as though the person with all the money is that much happier. So I started thinking for a long period of time, what are the traits of happy versus unhappy? What's the unhappy group do?
Right.
What's the happy group do? And I went on this path of trying to figure that out from a research perspective. I didn't want it just to be what I thought made a happy retiree. And I didn't want it to say, well, here's what I think from, this is what I see unhappy retirees do. I wanted it to be something empirical that I could really point to. So before I even thought about doing a book, I didn't do the research thinking I'm going to do research and write a book. I thought if I could do research, it would give me a lot of great insight, content. I'd write some articles about it.
Right.
I didn't necessarily think it would become a book. And ultimately, I went down this path of asking about 1,500 families around the United States in 46 different states, a series of lifestyle questions about consumer questions, financial questions, and then overlaid a couple of questions that allowed me to understand their levels of happiness.
Okay.
After we got all the data back, I took the happiest 2 quintiles. So I took the group that had the reportedly highest happiness and took all their data and their consumer habits, their lifestyle, their spending, their financial habits, et cetera, and compared it to the lowest 2 quintiles. So we cut out the middle. So we had the happy. I thought of it as this is a happy group. Ultimately, we ended up calling that Rob's happiest retirees on the block, relative to, and compared it to the unhappy group. So you've got the Robs down here, unhappy. What do they do? What do we need to avoid?
Right.
What do the Robs do? What do we need to do more of? And that was so fascinating to me because it wasn't just my ideas. It was the research that said, okay, here's what this is what this group does. It became a book. Wow. And it really just set me on a journey the last over a decade now. I'm working on You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think, which is the first book, 5 Secrets of the Happiest Retirees. I'm working on the 10th anniversary edition of that.
Wow.
A couple years later, I did another research project, similar happy group versus unhappy group, more financial habits, lifestyle, and that became what the happiest retirees know.
Wow.
So I've spent a lot of time over the years doing this. It's very fun.
Wow. Sounds like you're real passionate about it too. So that means it means a lot to you. And hopefully it means a lot to our folks as they listen.
I think it applies.
Yes.
I know we're probably a lot of people here are teachers.
Yeah.
If you're scrolling through the 17 million podcasts, right, and you're in Georgia, hopefully, if you're a teacher and you run across the Teacher Retirement Podcast,
Yes.
I mean, you're gonna click on it.
Yes.
And this applies. And I think that's what's important here is that I see teachers in this research a lot.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, quite often I see an article online about the habits of various sets of people. What are the top 3 financial habits of the happiest retirees that they have in common?
Yeah, I think there's more than 3, but I'll try to stick to 3. Okay. There's got to be some level of savings. And in my research, there was an interesting kind of call it a financial checkpoint that Americans in general get to in the happy group that tips them into the happy group.
Okay.
So you've got a certain minimum amount of liquid net worth that you can draw upon, or it can create more income in the future. That number is 500,000, right?
Okay.
Again, this is across America. That is the median amount
Okay.
for retirees that are in the happy group. Now, don't drive off the side of the road if you're not at 500, right? Because it takes a long time to get there, and it's not the only thing. It's certainly not the only thing. The second, and I would say just as critical piece of the equation, is multiple streams of income.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? How are we going to be able to fund our retirement? And this is where I know from a lot of years working with folks that are state of Georgia and teachers here in Georgia and from other states, teachers are a group that have some real income streams, right? They've got teachers retirement, which is the pension. That's a big deal towards happy retirement or a happy retirement. We've got Social Security, husband, wife, Social Security, 1, 2, pension, 1, 2, whether there's some sort of other retirement stream. So liquid assets that can produce income or you can fall back on 2, multiple streams of income, again, applies, I think, directly to teachers. And then if I had to pick a third on the financial side, it would be mortgage payoff.
Oh, yeah.
Within sight. Doesn't have to be paid off tomorrow. Doesn't have to be paid off day one, you're in retirement. But some path for you to maybe be living mortgage free at some point in not 30 years from now, but over the course of the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, getting rid of that biggest expense for most of us.
For
anyway.
most of us,
yeah,
correct.
Definitely lightens the load. Well, just as there are habits on the happy side, Wes, there must be habits on the not so happy side. Are there overwhelming financial habits that the unhappy retirees have as well?
I think, first of all, that group is a head in the sand group. The unhappy group, a little bit. I don't want to know. I don't want to plan. I don't want to spend any time on this because it's scary. Money is just, it's not the most fun topic.
Right.
And not that it's not interesting. I think everybody thinks it's interesting, but it's emotional and it's a little scary. So it's easy. It's really easy for anybody, any profession, to just not talk about it, not think about it, head in the sand. I think that's number one. Number two, not a lot of income streams. So you're going into retirement and you don't have things to fall back on. 3, low savings rate. Another thing for the unhappy group, I would say they're lean maybe more towards, if they are savers, and there's a lower savings rate here. They're more savers versus investors. Big difference between the two. It's one thing to put away money. That's hard just to begin with, just to put money aside. It's another to be able to invest it and have the money ultimately work for you over time. And that's the difference between just saving versus investing.
Understood. Yes. Well, on average, our TRS retirees receive over $3,200 a month in their pension benefits. Is it important for future pensioners to put additional funds aside in investment accounts for retirement?
Both are so amazingly important, right? In a perfect world, we got lots of income streams coming in and we got lots of savings. That's like the perfect world. But that's not reality.
True.
It's not everybody can do that. So it's some effort on, and both take forever, by the way, right? They're both marathons. To get to your 30 years at TRS, that's a long time. And I know how hard it is for teachers. It's tough. It's a tough job.
Sure.
It is. I don't think anybody would argue with me that teachers are generally underpaid.
I agree.
For what they do. Now, we've got in Georgia, there's been a bump up and teachers got a way overdue bump up in salaries, but it's well documented that teachers in general have not kept up with inflation. Right? We've lived in a world with lots of inflation in the last decade. Teachers have not kept up with that, their salaries.
True.
So both take for a long time. And I would look at it as just a long marathon. It takes a lot of years to get good income streams, meaning that you got to put in 20, 25, 30 years at TRS as one example. And then you got a serious income stream.
Yeah.
But it takes a while. It also takes a long time to accumulate money in a retirement account. That doesn't happen in a year or 5 or even 10. It takes 20, 30 years.
Right.
So I would just say that knowing is a lot of the battle. It's going to take a long time, and that's okay. So if we're not putting our head in the sand, like the unhappy group, we know it's going to take some time, and you plan around that, and you know, look, I've got to keep putting in my years here. Ultimately, it's going to pay off.
Right.
So again, perfect world, you do both.
Understood. Steady wins the race and eyes on the prize. There we go. Well, Wes, have you found that retirees that receive pensions are included amongst the happiest retirees, or not necessarily so?
Everett, I'm going to ask you a question. Would you rather, if I were to say, look, you're going to get, and I'm using round numbers here. I'm going to say you're getting 10 grand a month.
I'm liking that already.
Yeah, you're liking that.
Yeah, I'm liking that.
Right? But here's how you're going to get it. You're going to get it. Think about the mailbox, and you walk out of the house, you walk around the brick wall that gets to the mailbox, and you get 2 options. One is you get one check every month for 10 grand, and the other is you get 10 $1,000 checks. Now, they may come throughout the month, and it's not necessarily set, but they're coming in. They're supposed to come in every month. One, that 10,000 is supposed to come in once a month. Same amount of money. Which one do you choose?
I kind of would like mine all at once. I mean, that's just the way I'd rather have it.
You right. So let's say you pick that, and then you get a snowstorm or a blizzard or something happens, and the mail doesn't come.
Oh boy.
Or for some reason, you open the mailbox and the check is, wait, where's my check? Where's my one check? Wouldn't it, from a peace of mind perspective, be kind of nice that if something were to happen to this, notice I didn't say guaranteed anything.
Oh my. Yeah,
nothing's guaranteed.
True, very true.
So there's this real peace of mind that says, well, I kind of rather a bunch of different income streams. Because what happens, God forbid, if something happens to one of them or the one income stream that I have? So my point here of that analogy is that we want multiple streams of income.
Okay.
Because we get this peace of mind to say, well, God forbid something happens to the one way I'm getting paid. That is a really important piece of the equation. So the happy retiree ends up with multiple smaller streams of income that they may all come together as one big stream of cash flow, but they're not overly dependent on just one thing, and that can create a real peace of mind.
Okay.
And it reminds me of, I think, that the teacher situation. If I'm a teacher, what I would like to see when I get to 50, 60, and I'm getting my TRS now, it'd be great to have Social Security for me. Maybe my spouse gets Social Security. Maybe my spouse gets a pension. I get a pension, right? I've got my TRS coming in. Then I've got some investment income coming in. Maybe I got a little rental house paying me a little bit. So now we end up with all these different tributaries. I got one stream of cash flow, and I feel good about it because I'm not worried about if something not perfect happens to one of them. I still got a lot left.
Yeah. See those rivers instead, right? All righty. What are some of the social and friendship-related habits that you've identified in your research, Wes?
I'll start out with one thing in general I saw when it comes to accumulation or the amount of money or the amount of income that happy versus unhappy retirees had. I saw this, what I call this plateau effect, where you end up getting more happiness for more money, but then it has diminishing marginal returns, right? The economists would call it diminishing marginal returns, meaning that I get less and less new good for each additional dollar. So I get maybe a little more happiness, but not nearly as much as the dollars climb.
Okay.
And I saw that in income. I saw that in savings. So think of it this way. I go from making $20,000 a year, can't pay the bills, to 40. Now I feel, I've got a little cushion, right? Big jump in happiness or peace of mind. But I go from, let's say, $1 million to $2 million, no difference, right? You had to face that last year, right? When you got raised.
Sure I did. No way.
No big deal, right? But so in the early stages of accumulation or salary or benefit, you name it, we get this big jump, and then we ultimately get a plateau. So more money doesn't necessarily buy a whole lot more happiness.
Gotcha.
We don't see that when it comes to social connectedness. More close social connections, more good friends, more trusted people. There's no plateau. No plateau. So just keep going. More is better, period.
Okay.
And it is, if you were to look at what's really the formula of this whole game we're all playing, I'm going to say yes, money's part of it. We need the cushion of that, the safety, stability of it. We need our health, and then we need connectedness.
Okay.
It's money plus health plus connectedness. That equals a happy retiree. And there's no plateau when it comes to our friendships, our relationships. We want as many of those as humanly possible.
Got it and understood.
Oh, you know what? Let me add one more thing on
Yes.
that one. And one more thing. This is it's an interesting development in the world that we live in, is that you go back to the 90s, we on average had 3 close connections in our life, if you asked Americans. Despite Facebook, all of the social media, all the digital connectedness we have today that we didn't have back then, our social connections reported today are less than 2. So we've gone from 3 close connections in America to something like 1.7. So it's actually dropped.
Wow.
And we have to be, and I don't know why, right? I'm not an anthropologist or whoever studies that, but I will tell you that it's something I want to understand that. I want to know it. I want to work against, I want to fight that tide.
We can turn it. Understood. Well, let me back up here. So how can joining retired teacher associations assist with close connections that you mentioned just now?
Part of socialization has to do with, there's one of the questions I have in What the Happiest Retirees Know. I was trying to get to the bottom of how people stayed connected, because it's work, right? It takes time, effort, energy. There's higher levels of happiness reported when you are a part of at least one organized social group.
Okay.
I think of these as like these social epicenters. And you get, and it doesn't matter what it is. So if it's a Retired Teachers Association, great. Doesn't matter what it is. You just need to be part of some sort of organized group. And that's loosely defined too. I think that's minimum once a month, something organized where you're regularly getting together. And it could be church, could be volunteer, could be Teachers Association, it could be your golf group for that matter.
Sure.
It just matters that you're getting together socially. There's an epicenter. Because then that epicenter leads to further social connections. It gives you some inertia, gives you some momentum around social connectedness. So it doesn't matter which one it is. Probably you want to do what was it? The Teachers Association.
Sure.
That'd be awesome, but it doesn't matter which one. Anything is good.
Let it be something. Got to do something. All right. Well, Wes, this is somewhat of uncharted territory for us here on our podcast, but let's talk about marriage and relationships in happy retirees. So what have you learned about relationship habits of happy retirees versus those of unhappy retirees?
If you're unmarried, doesn't mean you can't be a happy retiree.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you can't be a happy retiree. However, if you're doing it, and again, I'm always looking at the probabilities here. How do we sway more towards HROB camp, happy retiree? Mm-hmm. Retirees that are married are 4.5 times more likely to be in the happy group.
Wow.
Yeah, it moves the meter a lot. 4.5x. If you're, again, doesn't mean you can't be a happy retiree. I know plenty of happy retirees that are unmarried. Mm-hmm. You got to really lean on your social network there, really lean on your social connectedness. But very simply, the data tells me that there are higher levels of happiness or their higher propensity to land in the happy group versus unhappy if you're married. And it doesn't matter if you're married once or married twice. In the book, I actually call this, you get one marriage mulligan. I didn't see levels of happiness fall at all with one divorce. Okay. Didn't happen. Now, I did see them start to fall with multiple divorces. But the reality here is that divorce still can be just as happy as ever. Reality is nice to have a life partner.
Yeah. I'm thankful for mine, that's for sure. Okay. Well, if that
me
was...
Me too. My wife's listening. Wait a minute. Wait.
There you go. There we go. So we walk right into that one very well. Well, Wes, I can remember this situation very vividly. Some years ago, due to some circumstances beyond the control of either of us, both me and my wife found ourselves out of work. And at that time, having few options and even fewer resources, I swallowed my pride. I went to my mother and my father for some assistance. Mm-hmm. Now, this for me was the first time ever as an adult having to go to my parents for some help. And it's not a good feeling. Mm-hmm. It's not a good feeling at all. But at the same time, my parents recognized that as well. And they knew that if I need help, I wouldn't have come to them for help. So having said that, I'm thankful that it was that one and only time that I had to do it. But I know that adult children and grandchildren clearly have an impact on retirees. So how much money is too much to spend or lend to adult children?
This is kind of a fascinating piece of the equation, too, that I learned from the research when I started asking questions about, hey, how are your kids financially? Do you support your kids financially? Yeah. What's the happy group do versus the unhappy group? The data is interesting here. First of all, and this is not my data, this is just demographic research that I've found. And it's fascinating. If you're listening, you're a teacher, I don't know the average age of this podcast, but if you're 55 today, you think back as a teenager, you got out of the house and you were off to the races. Yes. You didn't, nobody stuck around. The world has changed. America's different today. Today, just go back to 1990, ages 18 to 29 to 29-year-olds, only about 29% still lived at home. Today, that number's over 50%.
What?
So you take 18 to 29-year-olds in the United States, and you look at that population, about half of them are still living at home.
Wow.
There's a lot of reasons behind that, and I don't know all of them. One of them is that we've delayed the age of marriage significantly in America. We used to get married, normal, married 21, 22, normal 30 years ago. Today, you're so young. Oh my! It's not abnormal to now get married at 30, 35. So we leave the nest a little later on average, I think, in America. And I think that's part of this. And this goes back to the question of, if there's one word about the financial relationship we have with our kids, happy versus unhappy retiree, what's the difference between the two? When it comes to our kids, the operative word is independence. We want independent children.
Sure.
Happy retirees spend a little around, on average, this is the happy group, on average about $500 a month on their adult children. I'm not talking about presents, gifts. I'm not talking about, hey, I'll help you out on Disney World. I'm talking about mortgages, car payments, tuition, big stuff, life stuff. Unhappy group, over $700 a month. So on average here, that unhappy group is supporting their children more in life
Wow.
than the happy group. And I think the answer, again, this is the data here. And if I had to draw a conclusion for that, is that the unhappy group is just their children maybe are a little bit less independent and more dependent on you
Sure,
financially. Tons of ramifications. What does it mean for the parent? You. It means maybe a later retirement date, more money going out the door. It's already expensive enough. Now I got to continue to pay for my kids who are in their 30s.
Wow.
We want independent children.
That's pretty
We want
eye-opening.
independent children.
Pretty eye-opening right there. Wow, that's a lot.
I wish I had the answer to it, by the way. I don't know how to do that, but that's what we
a
want.
lot of money right there. Well, along that same line, what are 3 ways that kids directly impact parents' happiness in their retirement?
I would say it's almost infinite, right? I mean, I write about a couple of these in the book. One, we want our kids, we want to live, we don't want our kids to live with us. So higher reported levels of unhappiness if our adult children are living with us. Higher levels of happiness if our kids are married. I think this all goes back to this area, this thought around independence. I want our kids to grow up.
Sure.
But here's what we don't want. We don't want them grown up and gone away. We don't want them grown up and gone away. We want them independent. But here's, to me, such a telling statistic. Retirees who live near 50% of their adult children are between 2 and 5x more likely to end up in the happy camp.
Wow.
I'll say it again. If you live in, let's say you live in Atlanta and you got 4 kids, you want to live near at least 2 of them. You want to live near at least half your children. Happiness levels rise dramatically when we live near our kids. More is better. But we don't want them living in the house, but we don't want them too far away.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just thinking, how do you decide which of the 2 of the 4? But it's easy. It's the favorite 2.
Yeah, you get to pick the
favorite
2 you want to live near.
There you go. So my kids know exactly what I mean when I say that. Well, Wes, I heard this phrase a few times while listening to your podcast. What are core pursuits?
Core pursuits are hobbies on steroids. They're not just a casual hobby. If you are, and here's what's important about understanding core pursuits is it doesn't matter what they are. It does not matter what your core pursuits are. You just have to have a lot of them in order to be a happy retiree. Unhappy retirees report 1.9 core pursuits. Happy retirees report 3.6. So almost 4 different unique core pursuits of the happy group, less than 2 on the unhappy group. Statistically significant. I remember getting these numbers back thinking, I've got to go. I don't even know how to do the math on the chi-squared and the statistics. I had forgotten statistics around how to. I went down to Georgia Tech, not far from where we're doing this podcast, and got the math department to help me do the statistical significance on this data. Statistically significant difference in core pursuits. You got to have a lot of you. More is better. 4 versus 2. It doesn't matter. So think of them this way too. If you play pickleball, it wouldn't be a core pursuit if you played it a couple times a year. You want to play it all the time. Play it once a week, twice a week. You want to part of a pickleball league.
Right.
By the way, organized social group. That checks that box. Epicenter.
There you go.
If you're a golfer, if you golfed once or twice a year, you're not a golfer. You just play golf once in a while. If you're a golfer and it's a core pursuit, you're playing it as many times as you can while you're still working, while you're retired. So whether it's travel, whether it is anything that's exercise related, it's a hobby, it has nothing to do with sports or exercise. It's something you just want to do all the time. That makes it this hobby on steroids.
I see.
That's a core pursuit.
Okay. Excellent. Well, speaking of those, what are the top 5 core pursuits of the happiest retirees?
I wanted to know these too. Like, what are the 5 happy retiree core pursuits? And I list them in the books that I write. We talk about what are the favorite core pursuits of happy retirees. I don't think it matters what they are. And that's the key. It doesn't matter what it is. Yes, number 1 reported back core pursuit for the happy group is volunteering. That's number 1. Travel is really high on that list for the happy retiree group. Family is reported on that. Exercising, I call it the INGs, walking, biking, hiking, running, you name it. You're doing something that's active, athletic. You're moving. Typically, these can also be social. But even though I'll list those out, happy versus unhappy list of core pursuits, it really doesn't matter what they are. It just matters you have lots of them and there's something that you're completely passionate about.
Understood. Yes.
And you can't just pick these up later. You can't just pick these up and think, and teachers can be guilty of this. business owners can be guilty of this because it's an all-consuming type job. You're always I was talking to a teacher the other day who I've worked with for a lot of years. Just the schedule. What's your general day like? Oh, I get up at 5:30. I get home around 6 or 6:30. Like that's a 13-hour day, right? You're working 12 hours a day. How do you have time to do anything else? Yes, you've got the weekends off. Yes, you maybe have a little bit of time off in the summer, but as Americans, we are so often totally dedicated to our jobs and our families. We don't ever have time to develop these core pursuits that are for us. Yeah. And that's a mistake. That's a big mistake. It's not just a nice to have. We think like, we got to have the money side taken care of, right? You got to have the money. You got to have this side of it, the equation. Happy retirees have this side of the equation figured out before they step into retirement. They're thinking about it. They're cultivating these core pursuits early on.
There you go. I remember reading that in your book, and you said, "Don't wait till you get there.
No,
it's too late to figure it out and learn it at that."
Nobody
point.
learns to play golf at 75. Doesn't happen. I
can truly attest to that.
You don't learn snowboard. I was teaching my kids. I didn't really. I snowboarded when I was in high school, and didn't do it for 30 years or 25 years. And then picked it up when I was around 40, and it's become like one of the most fun things. I love doing this. I love traveling out west and doing. But I was trying to teach my kids how to snowboard, and I got an instructor, and again struggle for a couple of days. It's kind of hard, a little bit hard to learn in the first few days. And I was asking the instructor about what age do you teach people to do this, and he said his oldest ever was like 50. So nobody learned. Once you're 50, you don't start snowboarding. So just do things as early as you can, and that's the great thing about this.
Sure.
But we tend not to. So do these things as early as you can.
Still scary to me, snowboarding. I'll let you have all of that fun to yourself. Well, Wes, given the amount of research that you've done over the years, what are the most shocking things you've learned? This one is, I'm trying to think, there are many things that came back in the research that I thought, wow, I didn't expect that. If I were to record one of them, and again, I keep referencing two different books. You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think, which is where I started doing this happy, unhappy research for retirees. And then ultimately more research that was combined into What the Happiest Retirees Know. One of them was that the number one, remember I asked consumer questions. So I even asked, where do you shop for clothes? Where do you shop for groceries? I didn't know what was going to come back interesting. Some of them didn't come back interesting. Some of them did. I asked about cars. What's your favorite car? Luxury car or regular car? Number one luxury car for the unhappy retiree, BMW. Yeah. I didn't. What? Okay. I didn't know that makes people unhappy. I didn't get it. It may not make you unhappy, but that was kind of very shocking to me. The number one car for the unhappy group, BMW. Number two, one divorce, zero negative consequences. Didn't really expect that. Again, 3 to 4 core pursuits. You got to have those. That's shocking, but not something that is hard to manifest or do or think about. And the impact of our kids, not that, of course, we know our kids are important, but thinking about the logistics around that is really eye-opening to me. And it's something that's practical. We can plan around that. Like, I got to be around the kids. Maybe that means I move in retirement. Maybe I move to the state where all my kids are. That's okay. Okay. Maybe hopefully my kids stay around where I want to live without moving, God willing, but we have no control over that, a little control. But just getting some clarity around those habits and then being able to help make some decisions, some life decisions around those, which I see in planning with families for retirement. I've been doing this for over 25 years now. This data works into the conversation. Hey, my kids live somewhere. Should I move? Absolutely. If they're not coming back to Georgia, you should go to them. So it really does manifest in real life decisions that are family related, money related, all together. Okay. I can see that. Well, Wes, where can people find your book, What the Happiest Retirees Know, and find you on social media platforms as well? Yeah, you can probably just go to my website. So you just go to wesmoss.com. And you can find the book and Amazon all over the place. Easy to find. Got you. Well, are there any last words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with our audience today before we let you go?
You know, I've worked with a lot of teachers over the years, and I'd say that there's a lot of happy retiree teachers. They are in a position to have a really significant monthly payment. Takes a lot of work to get there.
Yes.
Which is a lot of years you put in to get a monthly pension for the rest of your life. And I very often I'll encourage teachers that are ready to give up on this, just too much work. Hey, I'm not getting paid enough. I mean, I've heard that many times, but I'm a big believer that you get your 25, get 30 years into TRS, and it's a really almost life-changing pension that you now have forever.
Yes.
And we forget that when we're in the trenches working, right?
Yes.
So I have reminded folks over the years, like, hey, just get to if you can put in 30, do it. I know it's tough. Get there. But at the same time, and sometimes it's maybe a little easier if you do have a spouse. So with teachers, I'll encourage, hey, get through the system, get your 30 years if you can. And at the same time, also don't just rely on the pension. Don't just rely on that. We want multiple checks in the mailbox.
Yes.
One of them you want to have come from the money you have saved. Again, maybe this is where a spouse comes in, and maybe your spouse is able to save more or allow you to put more in your retirement account, the 403B that most teachers have. We really want to encourage, even though teachers have money that comes out every month, it's not an insignificant amount that goes to the pension. I also would encourage folks to put as much as they can away in their own retirement account if they can. The other thought here is mentioned, we were talking about the difference between saving and investing. I also want to encourage teachers to invest rather than just save. I look at their retirement monthly amount. That's a steady number that's going to eventually start coming in, like almost like a bond, almost like the safe side of retirement, which would argue that if you're a teacher, because you got kind of the safety side of investing down, TRS does a lot of that for you. I would, if I'm a teacher, I'd lean more towards stock investing, even though it's riskier and you see the news markets up and down. Over time, we do well to grow wealth as investors in the stock side of the market. And of course, there's always options within your 403B that you can do that. I'm a big believer to really educate yourself and be able to participate in that side of retirement planning. The stock side over time is typically where we win. If I had to sum all of this up, the formula is pretty simple. I think it is at least some baseline amount of money. It is our health, which we also talk about in What the Happiest Retirees Know. And then it is connectedness or social connections. That equals a happy retirement.
That's where we all want to be. Well, Wes, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on our podcast today. And on behalf of our podcast studio team, Georgia's educators, and all of us here at TRS, thank you for sharing your excellent advice and for taking time out of your super busy schedule just to sit with us for a bit. I truly believe that our members and friends do indeed benefit from the information that goes out via our podcast, and I'm especially sure that will be the case with all that you've shared with us today. I know that Atlanta traffic can be a little challenging sometimes, but Sandy Springs is not too far from TRS, so anytime that you want to stop by and share with our members, please do know that you have an open invitation here with us. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we especially hope that you enjoy all of the valuable information that Wes shared with us today. We encourage you to share our podcast with your family and friends, and if you have questions, comments, or feedback that you would like to share with us, you can reach us at podcast@trsga.com. That's podcast, PODCAST, at trsga.com. Join us next time for TRS, Your Retirement in Focus.